A few words is sometimes all it takes, and the next thing you know, your wife is completely overreacting. Just picture this. You get home from a busy day, you're just chatting with her, things seem fine, and then you sit down and you ask, "What did you do today?" You are making conversation, you care, you genuinely want to know what she got up to, but suddenly you see her face get tense. Tone changes and she snaps at you. "Are you kidding me? Take a look around. I've been nonstop at home here all day on top of getting groceries, making dinner, and getting everyone to their appointments. It is never enough, is it?" And then she storms upstairs, and you are left sitting there like, what in the F just happened? After working with men, women, and couples for years, I can tell you this reaction, it is not about what she did or didn't do, and you didn't do anything wrong. What's actually happening in these moments is something that most men have never been taught. I'm Lindsay. This is Loving with Intention. Let's dive in because what I'm sharing completely transforms how my clients handle these really confusing, frustrating moments in their marriages. So when your wife reacts like this, it is super, super common to think things like she is so emotional, she always overreacts, or even she has got issues. And I get it because when somebody blows up over what seems like a really simple question, it feels like they must have a serious problem, right? But here is what's fascinating about our sweet, sweet nervous systems. When your wife snaps like this, something so much deeper is happening. When someone's reaction seems disproportionate to what just happened, it usually means that something from the past is being triggered. It is much less about what is happening right now. And once we really get this, we can actually do something about it, even if it just starts with you getting this today and she's not watching this. So let's do a little rewind. Maybe your wife grew up in a home where she didn't get much acknowledgement for her efforts or who she was. She would get an A on her homework and her parents would barely say a word, but then her brother was getting praised for his B plus. So she took care of her little brothers when her parents were working. And when they got home, they greeted the little ones with excitement and love. And then they looked around and pointed out what she didn't get done around the house while watching them. They didn't thank her for watching them. She wasn't getting acknowledgement. So there could be many other examples that go along with this, but imagine this is a pervasive pattern that she has of not feeling seen, feeling ignored, and nothing ever being good enough. And then fast forward to today, you are happily chatting away, and then you ask her what she did today. Her nervous system in this moment, it did not hear your casual, loving question. It actually hears a voice from childhood, the voice that was ready to point out what she didn't do and minimize what she did do. And notice I said her nervous system heard this. She didn't consciously hear that voice from childhood in this moment. And this is where it gets super interesting, or at least I think it's super interesting because I love this so much. When you ask that question, your wife gets a literal sensation in her body. So maybe it's a tension in her chest, a pit in her stomach, her jaw gets tense. And this is the same feeling that she got as a kid when those things were happening. So when that feeling, that sensation happens in her body, it's like a time warp. Her nervous system now cannot tell the difference between what's currently happening and what happened as a child. It just remembers this sensation, and this sensation means that something bad is happening and we're not okay. So all of this happens in like a literal split second. So her nervous system interprets what you're doing as an attack, because when her parent asked her a seemingly casual question, just like you did, it was always followed with hurt. It was being asked so they could point out how she could have done better. It wasn't being asked with love or curiosity. Again, this literally happens in a split second. The body sensation, the feelings, the reaction, it's like boom, it just happens before she or you even know what's happening. Her nervous system jumps right into protection mode. So we're going to get into why this is important and what you can do about it. But first, I definitely recommend popping the word roadmap in the comments so I can share my free Love Journey Roadmap with you. If you want to learn exactly how to look under these reactions in these moments and start bringing more peace and love and calm and connection into your relationship, I created this free guide just for you. It brings in the nervous system and so much more, giving you personalized action steps to create change. So you can just comment roadmap for that. Okay, back to your wife. When she reacts and she snaps at you in this moment, she's actually reacting to so much more. The hurt, the sadness, the beliefs that she developed as a child, like, I can't do anything right or I'm never good enough. Does your wife know in this moment that her reaction isn't about your question, that the reason she's reacting like that is about so much more? Maybe, but most often, no. When I am working with clients and we work through arguments and upsetting situations that they bring to sessions, we always find there's so much more at the root. And when I say it's not actually about your question or what's happening in this moment, it is not to diminish any present day feelings or frustrations within your relationship. Those are important too. Those get to be addressed. I'm just talking about these reactions that seem disproportionate to the event. Also, let me be super clear. This is not to excuse her reaction or say that it's okay to react like that just because it's coming from an unhealed wound and old beliefs that were formed in childhood. What I am saying is when we understand what's really happening underneath these moments, then we can see these moments through this new lens, then everything shifts. This is where healing starts to happen. This is where you start to change these patterns. What probably happens in these scenarios now is that you end up reacting too. Maybe she storms off, you're calling after her, like, what's your problem? Or you always overreact about nothing. Or maybe you just totally shut down, you retreat, you go silent, which is a reaction in itself. When you turn on this new lens, instead of reacting, you can start to turn towards your wife and truly see her. Maybe you say something like, I know you did a lot today. Thank you so much for having dinner ready too. Or you gently say, I really appreciate everything you do for our lives. That right there, you're not just speaking to your wife that's standing in front of you, you're speaking to that little girl who really needed to hear that she mattered, that her efforts mattered, that she was seen, that her people cared, that she was loved. And I mean, you're literally talking to this little girl inside her. These parts of us, they live inside of us. Every time you do this, a little piece of healing happens. It is one of the most beautiful things that I get to witness when I'm working with couples. I love it so much. And of course, you could look at your spouse and be like, that's your stuff, your wounds, just deal with it. But this is your person. You two are in a relationship and a marriage. How incredible that you get to be part of the healing that happens for each other. It is the coolest thing ever. And remember, this isn't just your wife. We all have triggers. Even if you had what you feel like was a great childhood, triggers come in all shapes and sizes. And it doesn't mean that something terrible happened. And this isn't just childhood either. It could be from past relationships, friendships, coworkers, bosses. We collect these nervous system responses all throughout our lives. You're going to have your own triggers that from the outside, somebody might be like, whoa, that was a big reaction. What just happened there? That doesn't make sense. But if we dug deep, it would make sense. And this is really important. Just because it makes sense doesn't make it okay. And responding with love to her in this moment doesn't mean that you're just tolerating or accepting hurtful behavior, but trying to address her tone or her reaction while she's triggered in that moment, that's like trying to talk down a smoke alarm when it's popping off because there's smoke. It's not going to work. You are way more likely to be heard around this and create change if you address these pieces outside of the triggered moment. And of course, you know that if you just react back when she's storming up the stairs or going away from you, that things aren't going to go well either. So this is an opportunity for change. Knowing all of this is crucial in healing and growing. And this also requires getting really curious about your nervous system too, because the second that she reacts like that, your body is going to have its own response. Maybe your heart starts racing, maybe your chest gets tight, your stomach drops, your hands get hot or they clench. Most of us blow right past these cues because they happen in just a split second. And that is how we end up in these back and forth spirals of criticism, defensiveness, arguing, shutting down. One of the most powerful things that you can do is practice getting curious about what's under her reactions outside of these triggered moments. Reflect on past situations in a moment when you're calm, regulated, and you have the capacity to think about it. The more you practice curiosity when you're calm, the easier it becomes to access that understanding in the heated moment. And again, the coolest thing is she doesn't have to be doing this work with you right now to start to see change. I work with men who either want to do the work on their own or their wives aren't interested. Thank freaking goodness that it doesn't mean that things are hopeless. You changing your steps in your usual dance in your marriage, it changes the entire dance in your marriage. She can't keep doing the same old steps if you're consistently changing yours to new, healthier steps. And I always want to make really clear that just because you respond with understanding doesn't mean she's going to immediately shift her reaction. This does take consistency. It's like learning any new dance. You're going to be stepping on toes, you're going to be missing beats along the way, but with time and practice and intention, these moments get easier and easier to navigate together. And one last thing I need to share, when your wife gets reactive, it is always worth checking in with yourself too. Were you negative? Were you critical? Was there a tone in your voice that had blame or judgment? Because if there was, that is something to own and apologize for. What a moment for growth. This is not about being perfect. It's about both of you growing in understanding, taking responsibility for your part, and creating a safer space for each other. It is a really, really beautiful thing. I love it so much. So remember, you can comment roadmap for the free love journey roadmap where I help you wonder and look under, one of my favorite concepts, under the surface of these reactions for both you and your wife so that you can actually start to change things. And it helps you work with your nervous system too, and so much more. So comment roadmap for that. So let us end on circling back to that moment where you asked her what she did today. When she snaps at you like you just told her she's lazy and got nothing done, you now know it's not about your question. It's not about that moment. Under that reaction is a little girl who learned that no matter what she did, it was never good enough, that everyone else was deserving of love and encouragement, but she wasn't. And now you have the power to respond differently. Instead of getting pulled into that old dance of criticism and defensiveness, you can pause, take a deep breath, and remember this is about so much more than your question. Maybe she comes back down and you give her love and appreciation, and later, when you're both calm, you have a genuine conversation, a compassionately curious conversation about what happened, because that's where the real magic happens. It doesn't happen in the heated moment, but in all the small moments where you choose understanding and curiosity over reacting. And who knows? Maybe next time after that, when you ask her a question that triggers her and she gets that old sensation in her body, she might snap at you again, but instead of storming off or things totally spiraling, she might feel safe enough to recognize it and say, I'm sorry, I think that I took that in the wrong way. And that's what happens when we create safety in our relationships. We create possibility for things to go very differently. So your intentional action for the day is to reflect and think of a time recently where you found yourself thinking that was a big reaction, and get really curious about what could have been underneath. Choose to see it through a new lens. This starts the process. And I am celebrating you so much for choosing to do this and get curious, and for being here. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sending so much love into your day. And if you also struggle with your wife not taking accountability, check out the video on the screen to help you get started with changing things there. And just remember that nothing changes if nothing changes. So comment roadmap, get super curious, and let's have a super intentional week.